Hello everyone, it's Kryles, and I have a weird sneaking suspicion that this channel is going to just be a culmination of me focusing on gay media, because, no, but honestly, a lot of representation and good representation is coming out of the woodworks right now in media, and I am passionate about it. As I said in my last video on Our Flag Means Death, when I say as a kid I wish I had the representation in as many ways as I found and am finding with each rewatch of this show, I'm not kidding. So, today I'm going to be talking about the recent Netflix release based on the work by Alice Oseman, Heartstopper. For those who don't know, Heartstopper is a coming-of-age queer romance series that is an adaptation of Alice Oseman's graphic novel and webtoon. And disclaimer, I have not read the graphic novel or webtoon, so if you want an analysis of that, I won't be talking about things past the first series on Netflix or the first 2 volumes of the source material. For some reason, after literally watching this entire show 3 times in one day, I wish that was a joke, I decided I would like to go on the journey and have the first-time surprises of the stories with these characters as it comes out on Netflix, rather than immediately picking up the graphic novel and consuming it all at once. Maybe just because I want to hold on to the story a little longer and the surprise and excitement with each new event for these characters to experience, but who knows? To be honest, we'll see how long I resist, because I might just cave and read it all. So, Heartstopper follows the story of 2 British high schoolers, Charlie Spring and Nick Nelson, a 10-year and 11-year in high school respectively. Charlie is our first perspective character we meet, and from his past, we quickly learn that the year prior he was outed as gay and has suffered from a lot of bullying. However, during the start of the new term, his high school, Truham Grammar High School for Boys, an announcement is made that the boys' form, which for my American audience is basically a similar concept to our homeroom, will be having the students mixed with each other from all different grade years, and quirky, nerdy, sweet boy Charlie is sat next to year 11 dubbed Rugby King Nicholas Nelson. Immediately, it's obviously love at first sight when they see each other. Without getting into spoilers yet for those who have not seen the show, which again, if this will be a common theme for my videos, maybe go see the thing first, but it's okay if you haven't yet. The story of the 2 boys follows Charlie's troubles with feeling like a burden to those around him due to the prejudice he receives at school for being openly gay, as well as due to the residual worry he accrued from a boy named Ben Hope. Ben was someone from Charlie's point of view he was in a relationship with at the beginning of the story. However, Ben is not out nor comfortable enough with himself and or his own sexuality to be seen or even understand the nuance of a relationship with Charlie, resulting in him using Charlie to explore his own sexuality despite him not caring how this affects Charlie, as well as the fact that he, from my assumption, has no true feelings for Charlie.
Don't you think I, of all people, would understand if you're figuring out your sexuality?
Then why are you angry at me?
I'm angry because you never even slightly cared about my feelings. We'll never meet up when you want to, where you want to, when you feel like kissing a boy. You don't care about me at all.
This royally messes up Charlie, as it would anyone. For now, Charlie feels as though he is a person who causes shame and secrecy for others, which is why when he and Nick begin to see each other, these traumas are brushed up against as Nick is trying his best to navigate his own sexuality, the possibility of him coming out, and understanding his own relationships with his friends and others while trying not to hurt Charlie in the process. And, as I like to say for people who are umbrella or capital G gay, this is a totally valid thing for anyone, but especially high schoolers, to figure out yourself, your identity, and to come out when you're ready. However, understandably so, it's hard for Charlie not to worry from the poor way Ben handled their relationship with regard to Ben coming to terms with himself and his sexuality as well as coming out, when Nick has these same base struggles. Of course, Ben's using of Charlie is not what Nick is doing, and we get to see that from seeing both boys' perspectives as the audience, but Charlie self-flagellates and concludes that Nick's issues while he comes to terms with himself are due to him.
I was sort of going out with this other guy. I liked him, but he made me feel like I was ruining his life. Like he didn't want me to even exist. And I just feel like maybe I do just ruin people's lives.
All the while, too, Heartstopper follows the parallel stories of Charlie's longtime group of friends, Tao, Elle, and Isaac. Mostly Tao and Elle. I know apparently Isaac is not in the novel, but I'm excited to see what they come up for him. He seems like a really sweet kid. As well as some new friends Elle has made in the all-girls sister school to Truham, Higgs Grammar High School for Girls. There she meets the newly out lesbian couple Tara and Darcy. The stories with these characters are, in simple terms, as follows. Tao is Charlie's best friend of several years who is defensive of Charlie and does not trust that Nick, as part of the group of rugby boys of whom some have picked on Charlie in the past, will not hurt him again. As well as we see Tao's worries of losing all his friends during this time of change. Elle, who is separated from her friends after she transfers to the all-girls school after coming out as trans, deals with navigating her friendship with Tara and Darcy, as well as she is dealing with her developing feelings for Tao, who she sees as being much more preoccupied with his obsessive focus on protecting Charlie. Darcy. For Tara, she and Nick have parallels, with them both being much newer to their sexuality compared to their significant other in Darcy, and for Nick in Charlie. However, for Nick, he finds both hope and fear from Tara and Darcy's relationship. He's hopeful because he sees the liberation they have for being openly out and together, but fear from the repercussions of classmates' judgment and prejudice, which is reflective in Tara's response to the uncomfortability from that backlash.
Don't feel like you have to come out to anyone before you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Being out is hard. A lot of people will see you in a different way, and it is a lot to deal with.
Long story short, the first series, or season, again for my American audience, is in a way the general coming-of-age, coming-out story, and it follows a lot of similar beats as some we have seen before in media. But beside my opinion from prior videos, and not to continually reference myself, but for anyone who saw my Our Flag Means Death video, Hollywood loves to slap a "we represented the LGBTQIA+ people by making a show or film that has at least one character coming out and being accepted by the end of the film or show." I am hopeful, and maybe naively and blissfully so, that this idea of a coming out story is only for these first 8 episodes, and where the points of my video essay will now presently come in. The thing about Heartstopper is that, at least to me, it finally feels like representation of queer experiences from the inside looking out rather than the outside looking in. What I mean by that is there are often times that a straight lens will be cast on the telling of a queer story, such as media like Love, Simon, Brokeback Mountain, Call Me By Your Name, and many other visual adaptations. And listen, I'm not saying that these are bad, wrong, or shouldn't exist. These stories are good and important to the inherent necessity of representation for LGBTQ+ stories, as well as other reasons, but all of these stories and others are told in a way that seems like an invisible wall is separating the known experience of these characters, which makes it feel like a personal version of representation for queer audiences is just beyond our grasp of ever getting. And of course, there is much more nuance than that, and it will never be that simple, nor am I assuming all the creators of these stories are straight, despite all the research I've done. I will only say that the authors and creators are straight presenting, therefore it's fair enough for me to say that these stories are that of the straight lenses view on the queer experience. But Heartstopper resonates, at least for me and my personal experiences, more true than the others I have listed. A lot of these stories I said before feel heavily dramatized or made more grandiose. Now, of course, storytelling can be and always will be hyperbole to real life in some instances and dramatized art. That's obviously the point of storytelling, but there is this feeling that hits different with Heartstopper. It's like a story made by gay people for gay people, rather than the others being a palatable made gay story by straight presenting people made for the heteronormative dominated world, which is fine, but that's why Heartstopper resonated with me more. Of course, this is my channel and my videos, but I'm obviously going to be expressing my opinions from my personal experiences going forward to at least explain my points. But unlike, let's say, Love, Simon, to take one of the listed stories earlier for example, I don't feel like the queer experience is solely anchored to the idea of coming out and the trials and tribulations associated with that, especially by the way that Simon, in at least the movie, does not at all read as gay.
I like your boots!
And obviously that might sound weird. There's not necessarily always a definitive way to know if someone is queer, but for most gay people, there is a reason why we say we have gaydar or bi-fi, because there are tendencies we all experience personally and pick up on life to associate likeness with other queer people. In very natural animalistic terms, we do it out of a need for safety. As animals in the wild will size up competition or analyze others to feel safety, we do the same as queer people. Is this person flirting with me or just being nice? Can I be my true self around them? Would they hurt me if I was vulnerable with them by showing them the parts of me that are truly me? Hence why I said earlier, despite going into watching this show obviously knowing it was going to be a queer story between both boys, seeing the way that Nick acts and talks with and around Charlie, it's obvious that Nick likes Charlie as much as Charlie likes Nick. Very similar to my points in my Our Flag Means Death video. Sorry, I keep bringing it up, but this is why shows that essentially queer bait their audience is so up. But besides that fact, that's what feels like the more real representation here in Heartstopper. For the queer audience seeing the show, we have all been in the shoes of Charlie, Nick, Tara, even Ben. Hopefully, most of us have all now gotten to a stage of being like Darcy in terms of our sexuality, who seems like the most confident and unashamedly proud, as well as sure of herself. It definitely took me a while, but I would say I'm there now. You can truly tell that Alice Oseman and the rest of the creative team for the Netflix series, even if not all queer, are trying to make it feel like a true representation of a queer point point of view. I mean, one of my notes here, and this is literally true, is that even to the detail of the soundtrack for the show, they chose artists and songs that every gay on Spotify has in a playlist when they're in their feelings, happy, sad, and or in between. I mean, honestly, hearing the music from the first 2 episodes in a row, I was like, did they take one of my Spotify playlists to score the show? I have at least Girls and other songs by Girl in Red, Sappho and other songs by Frankie Cosmos, Biba Doobie, Baby Queen, Orla Gartland, all on one playlist at least confirmed. The thing is, nuance is a big point of all of this. In the difference to the straight lens on being queer, we get the nuance of queerness in Heartstopper. Instead of, I am either straight or gay or whatever have you, we have Nick who discovers he is bisexual, and believe me, as someone who is pansexual and has come out as bi, then gay, then bi, then gay, then pan, it's complicated and it's a nuanced thing. In all honesty, queerness isn't simple. It's not supposed to be. And despite the small things the characters all do that seem like normal teenage tendencies, especially for people born around the same time as me, things like the moment when Nick picked up the laptop in episode 2 into episode 3, I knew exactly the words he was about to type. And down to the detail of the second search being "Am I gay?" BuzzFeed sent me, because that's what it's like. It's not like the way Simon Spears simply explains it on an email in Love, Simon, which again, it is relatable to a point, but it's a very basic thing that myself and a lot of my queer friends who have seen Love, Simon have been like, oh yeah, kinda same, but not exactly. But in Heartstopper, seeing that scene, we are all like, that's literally what it's like. That's literally the exact same thing that happened to all of us. We went down that same rabbit hole, which this is partly to do with Alice Oseman being from the same generation as I said, so we obviously will have some shared generational similarities for growing up, but again, it's even more representative from them being queer as well as the input from the queer cast and crew. But there are just inherent parts that are exactly the experience a lot of queer people have had. We've done the "Am I gay?" Google search. We've gone back and forth pining, sussing out crushes' sexualities via friends and connections, done something bold like joining a sport team if requested by the crush like Charlie has. Funnily enough, I saw so much of myself in both Charlie and Nick. Like Nick, I've had the girls who have had crushes on me, but I was so focused on the unexplored part of my sexuality towards other boys and either gone on a date or two with a girl out of confusion and the feeling of unknowingness or even suppression, as well as the ones I let down and felt bad for whatever extraneous reason for upsetting them instead of being okay allowing myself to navigate my sexuality. I've also had the quick fling with a girl that later we both realized were totally queer, as well as when Nick approaches Tara and Darcy, I approached people who I already knew were out and queer first, and I told them first not to tell anyone else because I wasn't okay with it myself or with anyone else knowing yet.
You're kind of the first people I've told about Charlie.
Really?
Yeah.
And does it feel good to have told someone?
Yeah. Really does.
That's what makes it feel real. And sure, you could boil it down to, okay, Kryles, those are just your experiences and they're very reflective in this show. But a lot of it is more directly representative than the overarching big theme of representation shown by the examples I gave earlier. I also dealt with the same issues as Charlie, not in quite the same vein, but I had most of the bullying from my sexuality from others actually before I came out, which after coming out people seemed really not to care, but that is more real of the struggles of coming out rather than an email chain from an anonymous school forum being released to the public. Heartstopper shows the true, natural, and even sometimes slice-of-life mundane queer experience truly being laid bare. Again, to bring back my point earlier, being queer doesn't always mean a mass email outs you or a dramatic summer fling in Italy or whatever epic proportion. Past whatever struggles we have as queer people, those struggles are not the defining moments of being queer, and I feel like this show gives us that in the small details. The small things to non-queer audiences are the biggest waves to us who have lived in Charlie and Nick's shoes. The group text between friends, the patiently awaiting the triple dots of an incoming message to prompt, the writing and rewriting of messages to not scare a potential queer love interest off, but wanting to get the point across or feelings through interlaid text strung through the other monotonous cover of conversation. And I mean the facial features and little movements. This is us. This is what it's like. It's just so heartwarming to see a story that panders to us rather than to the heteronormative world we want to accept us. Again, not that that isn't important work, it is, but this is yet again a place where we feel safe because we feel truly seen. And I know there is a lot of people that see this show and love it, but also wish that was what we had growing up. Trust me, I get it. And I have had my fair share of re-experiencing some sadness and loneliness in seeing this show, and then seeing it again and again, all in one day. Had lots of tears and lots of pining of my own to want to have a relationship relationship like that, but the reasons all those emotions flooded out through each episode all 3 watches through in one day was due to the fact of truly feeling seen and seeing myself completely reflected in all the characters. The success of the show is the queer point of view, and that's something the show has given so many people. Now, I can definitely continually go into Heartstopper more, the idea of feeling seen by it, as well as the way the show deals with the nuance and queerness, but I think for now I'll leave this video here. Maybe I'll come back to some more specific points in smaller analysis videos, but yeah, if you want that, let me know, but hopefully the ramblings of my personal connections to this story made a point. Thank you for watching, and let me know what part of Heartstopper made you feel seen and why. I'm curious how many other people feel this kind of difference in representation. But yeah, other than that, thank you again for watching. I would really appreciate you supporting my channel by subscribing, liking this video, and following me over on these social medias, and I hope you all have a great one, and love you lots, friends!